Hey, what's up? It's John Samuel, and welcome to All Access Live. And today we have a very special guest. We have Betty Siegel who's the director of accessibility and VSA at the Kennedy Center, and she's going to be talking about the LEAD conference, which is coming to Raleigh on August 1st, which we are super excited about. So, Betty, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm super excited to see LEAD coming to Raleigh, North Carolina, because this has been in the works for years.
I know.
Years and years.
I know. It's super exciting because, I think it was supposed to be in 2020, right? And that was the 30th anniversary of the ADA. And it was like just 2020 just being that kind of that perfect vision, 30th anniversary. It was almost like this perfect storm of greatness coming together with LEAD coming to Raleigh. And then we all know what happens.
I know. Well, it's really disappointing it's really disappointing for us because, I started this conversation with Sarah Corin there in Raleigh.
Yep.
Back when we had our conference in Pittsburgh, which was, 9 years ago. So it feels even longer to me. And we were so excited about 2020 because 2020 would have been the 20th anniversary of the LEAD conference. And so all of those numbers, all those zero numbers were coming together, 20, 20s, 30s,
Yes.
But we managed to survive COVID, and we are really excited about making this happen in 2022.
No, and 2022 is a good number too, right?
It is. All numbers are good.
All numbers are good. No, but it is super exciting because, the Kennedy Center has played, as you and I have gotten to know each other over the past year or so, Kennedy Center, it plays a special place in my heart because it was the view from my balcony when I lived in Washington, D.C. And it was where I shared my first kiss with my wife on the balcony of my apartment that oversees the Kennedy Center. And then I proposed to my wife on that same balcony. And it was actually the very first place where I actually experienced an accessible show where I got to have audio description, and it introduced me to the world of accessibility, even though I wasn't yet ready to accept it. But now here, it was given to me in the arts, and the arts has shown me, and I think it was the first place, even here in Raleigh, that showed me that they were open and welcoming of accessibility. So
I think I would love to have the history of having kissed my husband for the first time inside of the Kennedy Center, but that would not be true. So I'm glad that it played a significant role in your life.
Yeah. But you've been there. When did you get started at the Kennedy Center?
Oh, yeah. I started at the Kennedy Center 22 years ago. So it would have been my 20th anniversary at the Kennedy Center in 2020. Now, I started at the Kennedy Center in 1999 as their manager of accessibility because the Kennedy Center had made a commitment to being an accessible environment and complying with federal regulation and law. So you had the 1973 Rehabilitation Act, Section 504, and then you had the ADA coming into play. And an institution the size of the Kennedy Center and with the Kennedy Center's unique history, for it not to be accessible would just have been shameful. So I was really glad to be brought into an organization that had stepped up already and was ready to welcome people with disabilities throughout the institution. So that's a really good thing.
That is a good thing. And, so it's really interesting. You joined in 1999, and then within the next year, you go into LEAD. How is that?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, because
where was LEAD?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I used to live in Washington, D.C. and worked at Arena Stage, which is a large regional theater company. And we also were completely committed to accessibility starting in the 1980s.
Oh, wow.
So this was pre-ADA.
Yeah.
And I left Arena to move to Texas because I got married and my husband wasn't getting his PhD there. And when I came back to D.C., I started asking around other venues and other theaters and friends and colleagues that I still knew here about what had been going on. Like I had been here and then I was gone and I came back. So what was new? What was exciting? How have things changed? And it was disappointing and shocking to me, actually, that in like the 7 or 8 years that I had been gone from DC, things had not necessarily progressed. And I was I kept thinking, wait, it's 1999. The ADA was passed 9 years ago, and nothing's new. It's the same. That seemed wrong to me. And so honestly, I went through my Rolodex. Remember those paper
Yeah. Oh
ones,
yeah.
little cards that you used to through, yeah. And I went through my Rolodex and I pulled out 25 names of people that I liked. I mean, isn't that a silly? Just I liked them. Like I had talked to some of them were people that I'd known for years, and I
Yeah.
really, really liked them. And some of them were like one guy I remember. I don't remember his name to be honest, but he had called me like a week before from the Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
Yeah.
And I just he was interesting and he was excited about the work of accessibility, and I just clicked with him and I liked him. I thought he was really committed to the issues. And so I grabbed these 25 people and I invited them all to come to the Kennedy Center. And I really didn't understand at that point the power of working at a nationally recognized organization,
Yeah.
the size of the Kennedy Center. And so people were so excited to be invited to the Kennedy Center. So these 25 people come to the Kennedy Center. I lock them in the room for like 3 days. And I say to them, all you get to talk about is accessibility. I
Gotcha.
want to know what's up with accessibility for people with disabilities in your communities and what you all are doing. And so we just talked about that for 3 days. I did feed them.
That's what I was about to say. Where did you get food for these folks? And and what were some of those cool, like what were some of those like bright spots that came out of that?
Well, what were some of the bright spots were that access was happening, that things had been just steadily going along, and that we had been inadvertently and probably unintentionally developing what has now been what I consider to be the foundation of access that any cultural organization should have in place. So it doesn't matter to me whether you're a theater or a museum or a park or a zoo or an aquarium. I don't care whether you're a national, the NFL or the little historic home around the block.
Yeah.
There's a foundation of access services that we developed by just doing, that we identified in that first meeting, that we think that everybody should do. So you should be prepared to provide sign language interpreters. You should be prepared to provide audio description. You should be physically accessible, meaning at least your front door. People should be at least able to get in. And remember, we're talking 20 some years ago. What was the foundation of those things? And people were so excited to have that conversation, to understand that we actually had common shared practices.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the most exciting things that came out of that meeting.
I mean, I'm sure those 25 folks were super excited, because sometimes even today we get so excited when somebody wants to talk about accessibility, because we often feel, at least myself, like it's kind of like it's an afterthought. It's not.
Yeah.
But when we get an opportunity to talk about it, it's so exciting. And the people I've met in the accessibility space,
we are really intense
and it's, I can only imagine, the OG people, 20, those original 25 people who were really into it, and kind of how that grew,
I mean, it was like there was a palpable energy. And at the end of those 3 days, when I finally unlocked the door and let them go home, what we were like, well, what's next? Like we had this great time for 3 days, and we just talked and talked and talked. And the truth of the matter is, a number of those people stayed in contact, and some of those people are still part of LEAD, Sarah Corin being one of them.
Oh, she was one of the 25 that made the cut.
Yeah. Because I liked her. And who wouldn't?
Of course, I know SA is awesome. Yes.
Yeah. So, there are people that have stayed connected since that time. And when they walked out the door, what we left with was this idea that we wanted to meet again. One of the people who, a friend of mine named Cindy Brown, who is an actress and a dancer and now a writer who has a disability, said about LEAD in general. She said, and I remember this very well, because she said, when I, as a person with a disability, go into disability space, I have to always explain to people with disabilities what the value of the arts is to their lives, right? And then when I go into the art space, I have to spend all my time explaining to the art space people what the value of disability is in their lives. And she said, at LEAD, I don't have to explain anything. People just get it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of environment that we're trying to set up is, yeah, we are passionate. Yeah, we are curious. Yeah, we get excited about just some stuff that's such minutia nobody else would care, but we care.
Yeah.
And the reason why we care is that we all want to make sure that the arts, broad arts, are truly inclusive and available to everybody. And it can't be if we are ignoring one quarter of the US population has a
26%.
disability.
Yeah.
How can we be proud of ourselves and our work? How can we say that our missions are to serve our communities when we aren't serving everyone? So we care about those things. And that's what we left with after those first 3 days was this idea that we wanted to continue to meet. And that's how LEAD started.
Oh, fantastic. So that was in DC. And kind of, how did the progression go? You went from DC, and I think it was in DC for like 7 or 8 years first, right?
It was in DC until 2006, I believe.
Okay.
And then we outgrew the space. The Kennedy Center may be a big organization, but it's not big enough to hold more than about 150 people meeting at one time and to do breakouts and all that stuff. So we were like, we've outgrown the physical space of the Kennedy Center. And our first foray into taking LEAD to another state was to Arizona. And
really?
Yeah. And then we just started going to different states, wherever we had really strong relationships in the disability and most importantly in the arts community, we would go there. So I don't remember the order, but we were in Arizona, we were in Minnesota, we were in Illinois, we were in Pennsylvania, but Texas, California. So we go wherever there's enough passion and excitement about this work to justify picking up and doing a conference there.
No, that's
so
awesome.
this year we're in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I have to say, North Carolina is blowing me away. The support from the city and the way in which Raleigh is leveraging this conference coming into town is just exciting. You're setting a really high bar for our next location.
Well, I think Raleigh is just a wonderful place. I am biased. I am from the area. I'm, born and raised here. But it is. I think that LEAD has sparked something here, and I think it kind of coincides with a lot of different things. We recently, I may have mentioned to you, 321 Coffee, which is a coffee shop in downtown Raleigh, which is hires and employs individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and they're getting a lot of notoriety, not only here in the state and the city, but nationally, which is super cool because I think Sheryl Sandberg was just there last week having coffee at the coffee shop, which is pretty cool.
That's great.
But but I think we're seeing that, and LEAD is really kind of getting people excited about this event, whether it be. We just did something with Visit Raleigh about making accessible checklists for hotels, for the event spaces, attractions, and restaurants. And we're seeing that everybody is really kind of getting behind this. And so we're thankful about LEAD coming. But, what are you excited to, see in Raleigh? What are you really excited about LEAD coming to Raleigh? What is something that...
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm really excited about the opportunity to meet in person. Virtual space is amazing. And for some people with disabilities, this space has opened up new worlds for them, which I think is really great. And we really knew that we were coming into Raleigh with an in-person conference. And we are certainly extending all of our learning that's going to take place at LEAD. It's really pushed us as an organization to think about how can we create learning that doesn't just happen once a year. Like LEAD is great. I love LEAD. I really do. But I think what's coming out of Raleigh is this idea that it can't just be a moment in time.
Yeah.
Like significant sustained change doesn't just happen because LEAD lands in your community. We do a 3-day conference and leave.
Yeah.
Sustained change has to really happen across the entire year. And so we're looking very deeply at our own practices to leverage the online virtual space to make sure that LEAD isn't just a one moment in time in-person conference and convening, but that it is a year-round opportunity to continue to learn remotely and via platforms like this, and hopefully with people like you. So that's one exciting thing that's coming out of LEAD. The other one is, wow, I always hope in my heart that when LEAD goes into a community, that we leave something behind.
Yeah.
That we leave people who are empowered. We leave communities that have a better idea of what it means for an institution to be accessible, that we leave behind the capacity, improved capacity to provide audio description, a better understanding of what CART and captioning are, that we're leaving behind these moments that will be sustained in the community even when we're gone. And I just see Raleigh. We haven't even arrived, and Raleigh's already made these huge changes. Like you said, the hotels, the hospitality community is on board in Raleigh. The city is on board in Raleigh. The arts community is on board in Raleigh. I am especially excited by the North Carolina Culture and Recreation Department. They are so on board, and they are ready to start to really leverage their assets, their people and their spaces and their environments to create better access for all people. And again, remember, I define culture really broadly. So I think you're experiencing culture when you're sitting in a stadium watching baseball. I think you're experiencing culture when you're taking a hike through a park. All of this is a part of our shared, I hope shared, American culture.
Yes.
Right. And the fact that North Carolina is at the state level as well as at these local levels is really putting its money where its mouth is. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just went off on a tangent. I'm just super excited by all of that.
No, I mean, I am too. Next week, I think we're doing over the next couple of weeks, we're doing several different webinars on accessible social media, accessible documentation, accessible presentations. And, and that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing the city, and they're opening it up to all the different city folks, like, working throughout the different, not just in the arts, but anybody within the city to be able to attend this webinar that we're hosting. And then we're also doing disability etiquette courses, which I hope that this is just like, you're right. It is exciting to kind of see this. And it's something that I've been waiting for. You've been doing this, you talked about 9 years ago with SA talking about this in Pittsburgh. For me, it's like when I heard about it in 2019, I got super excited. So I can only imagine how you and the rest of the folks.
I'm super excited about working with you because I know that we have got you doing, for example, one of the big issues in access today, as you know, is web accessibility.
Yeah.
How well are, maybe we figured out, like I said, that in 1999, I'm not sure if the internet existed.
It was early days. We were still dialing. We still had that you got mail kind of situation going on.
Yeah, right? Think about what it was like 22 years ago. Email, were we using it the way we use it now? This kind of remote thing, this did not exist.
Nope.
And so as technology has changed, our foundation, remember I said what we established that first year was that there was definitely a foundation. Well, our foundation has to change too, right? It's kind of like building a building. We can't keep building a house on a foundation that is using materials that's 100 years old. There's new materials. We still have those 100-year-old materials, right?
Yeah,
We're still bricks and mortar, literally. But we also have new things that we build into our houses. And that's what is exciting about Raleigh and about working with you and having you come in and do, or you and your team, come in and do web consults with these cultural institutions. Like, have we added to our foundation of access the concept that our digital world also has to be accessible? That's exciting.
It is exciting. We love that idea, the whole concept, and to be able to provide that to folks visiting, and that's where we're really excited about that piece of it. But as
we're gonna challenge you, boy. I know we are gonna challenge you.
it'll be good. The team is all ready. They're excited about this, and it's. But when I think about kind of looking back, is there a lead conference like that kind of memorable experience that you really enjoyed in the last 20 years of doing this?
Wow, that's a super great question.
It could even be a restaurant. It could be some type of cultural event that you were.
Oh, I always love the
anything.
restaurants. Like the fun part, of course, of traveling for me is like when Leeds in DC, like I live here. There's
Exactly. Yeah. Even though some good restaurants. Yeah.
But I do love going to the restaurants in other cities and states. And Raleigh has a really super great food experience. So I'm excited about that. There's a restaurant, and I've forgotten the name, but it is run by a gentleman who's a wheelchair user in Raleigh.
In Raleigh. Yeah, Mike Thor. Yes, Whiskey Kitchen.
I'm excited to go there because one of the things that, as Lead has grown, and our focus is and will always be on, our core constituency, which is cultural institutions and the people who work in cultural institutions. And our core focus is always going to be on accessibility. But as we've gone, we've expanded out into, we're also looking at some employment issues. We need to address the issues of representation. And so, to go into a city and find a place where you've got a reputable, well-known restaurant being run by a person with a disability and being able to send the Lead conference attendees there to have that experience that's really exciting.
It is, and like you said, Thor is not just a, restaurateur. He was the restaurateur of the year a couple of years ago, which is, so it's some really good food and really exciting. It'll be a good experience.
Yeah. And then I guess the things with Lead, I mean, I know there's some, horror stories because no matter where we go, there's always, we only
want to hear the good stuff though.
I know. The horror stories are almost always related to transportation. Just one let you know. We seem to have a transportation curse on us.
I know, you were telling me. Yeah.
But the good things are that every year, I love that Lead every year is about 50% returning people from all over the country and all over the world. So these are deeply experienced people who come back year after year after year after year. But what I really love about Lead every year, and I'm excited about, is that 50% of the people are new. So we are doing what that original group of 25 wanted to do. Because aside from meeting again annually, what they really wanted to do was pass on information. Like, I learned this and I'm so excited about it. I want to share it with somebody else. And I want to save the next person down the road from having to go through all the tedious stuff I had to go through, and by sharing what I know. It's like a generational thing, like passing on knowledge.
Yeah.
And so when you have 50% deeply experienced experts in the room and you have 50% people who are new, there's this amazing dynamic that happens. And it's not always the experts teaching the new people, because a lot of times the experts learn from this new perspective. So I love that about Lead. I love the coming together of the new and the experience, and the way it comes out the other end with some really dynamic and engaging practices. I think that's exciting.
That is, and again, you've gone from 25 to now, several hundred folks. And so we're all excited about this. But where can people learn more and sign up or register to go to the event?
Oh, they can go to www.kennedy-center.org, and in the search field, put in LEAD, Lead, Leadership Exchange in Arts and Disability. It'll take you to our web page where you can register for the conference. Also, you can look at all the different sessions. We've got some great sessions this year. Oh my gosh, amazing. Sessions on how to make parks and recreational facilities accessible, sessions on creating sensory experiences in museums. It's the whole gamut. And then we always like to wrap up with our legal session at the end, which is one of my favorites. Because we get some really knowledgeable people coming. We have, I believe, Robin Jones from the Great Lakes ADA Center is coming to serve on that panel. And I'm really excited because we have someone who's presented for us a lot in the past, but hasn't been with us recently. John Wodash is going to be joining us for the legal session. And John is the former director of the Office of Disability Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice.
Oh, fantastic.
And so he is one of the people that wrote the regulations and legislation and has been enforcing those regulations for many, many years. Of course, he retired and we were like, come back to lead, come back, talk to us. And so he's going to also be on that legal session. So it always wraps up the conference. We like to hold the best for last. And I'm really excited about that session.
That's awesome. Well, Betty, I know you have a little ducky on your bookshelf somewhere back there, but I think you are the ducky. You are moving. Your feet are paddling.
This is my favorite thing in the world. I know you can't see that, but it's a large piece of glass crystal, and it's from the Raleigh Arts Commission. This is always in my background of all my Zooms. Raleigh Arts Commission. It says Betty Siegel, Universal Access and the Arts Award, presented to Betty Siegel in 2018. Wow. So this is an award that Raleigh created, and I was just so honored to be the first person to get it.
That is awesome.
And so it's always in my background next to my duck.
Next to your duck. Well, that's so cool. I didn't know about that. But we are just so excited to have you back here in 2022 and have the entire lead community. And thank you for everything you've done and everything you do. And if anyone, I highly recommend you follow Betty on LinkedIn, and because you do share some great content, and it really is, I think, useful for everyone. So, Betty, we are super excited to see you soon, and thank you for taking the time to spend and chat with me.
Well, John, thank you for opening the door, for allowing me to chat with you. I would do this with you anytime because it's so much fun.
Well, we'll be doing it again in a month or so, and because it's coming up.
It is August 1st through the 5th, 2022. Be in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yes. Thank you, Betty, and thank you, everyone, and thank you, Annie, of course, for everything you do. And we'll talk to y'all soon.
Bye. Bye.